next day he did not eat, nor the next. He made me angry because we had hidden his tools, the pupils surmised. We had better put them back. The day they did, the teacher worked and ate the same as before. In the evening, he instructed them. No work, no food. EQ, the Zen master, was very clever even as a boy. His teacher had a precious teacup, a rare antique. EQ happened to break this cup and was greatly perplexed. Hearing the footsteps of his teacher, he held the pieces of the cup behind him. When the master appeared, EQ asked, "Why do people have to die?" "This is natural," explained the older man. "Everything has to die and has just so long to live." EQ, producing the shattered cup, added, "It was time for your cup to die." A Zen master named Keitan lived in the latter part of the Tokugawa era. He used to say, "There are three kinds of disciples. Those who impart Zen to others, those who maintain the temples and shrines, and then there are the rice bags and the clothes hangers." Gasan expressed the same idea. When he was studying under Tekesui, his teacher was very severe. Sometimes he even beat him. Other pupils would not stand this kind of teaching and quit. Gasan remained, saying, "A poor disciple utilizes a teacher's influence. A fair disciple admires a teacher's kindness. A good disciple grows strong under a teacher's discipline." Zen teachers train their young pupils to express themselves. Two Zen temples each had a child protege. One child going to obtain vegetables each morning would meet the other on the way. "Where are you going?" asked the one. "I'm going wherever my feet go," the other responded. This reply puzzled the first child, who went to his teacher for help. "Tomorrow morning," the teacher told him, "when you meet that little fellow, ask him the same question. He'll give you the same answer, and then you ask him, 'Suppose you have no feet. Then where are you going? I'll fix him.'" The children met again the following morning. "Where are you going?" asked the first child. "I'm going wherever the wind blows," answered the other. This again nonplussed the youngster, who took his defeat to his teacher. "Ask him where he's going if there's no wind," suggested the teacher. The next day the children met a third time. "Where are you going?" asked the first child. "I'm going to market to buy vegetables," the other replied. Tangen had studied with Sengai since childhood. When he was 20, he wanted to leave his teacher and visit others for comparative study, but Sengai would not permit this. Every time Tangen suggested it, Sengai would give him a rap on the head. Finally, Tangen asked an elder brother to coax permission from Sengai. This the brother did, and then reported to Tangen, "It is arranged. I have fixed it for you to start on your pilgrimage at once." Tangen went to Sengai to thank him for his permission. The master answered by giving him another rap. When Tangen related this to his elder brother, the other said, "What is the matter? Sengai has no business giving permission and then changing his mind. I'll tell him so." And off he went to see the teacher. "I did not cancel my permission," said Sengai. "I just wish to give him one last smack over the head. For when he returns, he'll be enlightened, and I will not be able to reprimand him again." Matajuro Yagyo was the son of a famous swordsman. His father, believing that his son's work was too mediocre to anticipate mastership, disowned him. So Matajuro went to Mount Futara, and there found the famous swordsman Banzo. But Banzo confirmed the father's judgment. "You wish to learn swordsmanship under my guidance?" asked Banzo. "You cannot fulfill the requirements." "But if I work hard, how many years will it take me to become a master?" persisted the youth. "The rest of your life," replied Banzo. "I cannot wait that long," explained Matajuro. "I am willing to pass through any hardship if only you will teach me. If I become your devoted servant, how long might it be?" "Oh, maybe 10 years, Banzo relented. "My father's getting old, and soon I must take care of him," continued Matajuro. "If I work far more intensely, how long would it take me?" "Oh, maybe 30 years, said Banzo. "Why is that?" asked Matajuro. "First you say 10, and now 30 years. I will undergo any hardship to master this art in the shortest time." "Well," said Banzo, "in that case, you'll have to remain with me for 70 years. A man in such a hurry as you are to get results seldom learns quickly." "Very well," declared the youth, understanding at last that he was being rebuked for impatience. "I agree." Matajuro was told never to speak of fencing and never to touch a sword. He cooked for his master, washed the dishes, made his bed, cleaned the yard, cared for the garden, all without a word of sword craftsmanship. 3 years passed. Still, Matajuro labored on. Thinking of his future, he was sad. He had not even begun to learn the art to which he had devoted his life. But one day, Banzo crept up behind him and gave him a terrific blow with a wooden sword. The following day, when Matajuro was cooking rice, Banjo again sprang upon him unexpectedly. After that, day and night, Matajuro had to defend himself from unexpected thrusts. Not a moment passed in any day that he did not have to think of the taste of Banzo's sword. He learned so rapidly, he brought smiles to the face of his master. Matajuro became the greatest swordsman in the land. Encho was a famous storyteller. His tales of love stirred the hearts of his listeners. When he narrated a story of war, it was as if the listeners themselves were on the field of battle. One day, Encho met Yamaoka Teshu, a layman who had almost embraced masterhood in Zen. "I understand," said Yamaoka, "you are the best storyteller in our land, and that you make people cry or laugh at will. Tell me my favorite story of the Peach Boy. When I was a little tot, I used to sleep beside my mother, and she often related this legend. In the middle of the story, I would fall asleep. Tell it to me just as my mother did." Encho dared not attempt to do this. He requested time to study. Several months later, he went to Yamaoka and said, "Please give me the opportunity to tell you the story." "Some other day," answered Yamaoka. Encho was keenly disappointed. He studied further and tried again. Yamaoka rejected him many times. When Encho would start to talk, Yamaoka would stop him, saying, "You're not yet like my mother." It took Encho 5 years to be able to tell Yamaoka the legend as his mother had told it to him. In this way, Yamaoka imparted Zen to Encho. Many pupils were studying meditation under the Zen master Sengai. One of them used to arise at night, climb over the temple wall, and go to town on a pleasure jaunt. Sengai, inspecting the dormitory quarters, found this pupil missing one night and also discovered the high stool he had used to scale the wall. Sengai removed the stool and stood there in its place. When the wanderer returned, not knowing that Sengai was the stool, he put his feet on the master's head and jumped down into the grounds. Discovering what he had done, he was aghast. Sengai said, "It is very chilly in the early morning. Do be careful not to catch cold yourself." The pupil never went out at night again. Basui wrote the following letter to one of his disciples who was about to die. "The essence of your mind is not born, so it will never die. It is not an existence which is perishable. It is not an emptiness which is a mere void. It has neither color nor form. It enjoys no pleasures and suffers no pain. I know you are very ill. Like a good Zen student, you are facing that sickness squarely. You may not know exactly who is suffering, but question yourself. What is the essence of this mind? Think only of this. You will need no more. Covet nothing. Your end, which is endless, is as a snowflake dissolving in the pure air." A Zen master named Isan asked a young student to bring him a pail of water to cool his bath. The student brought the water, and after cooling the bath, threw onto the ground the little that was left over. "You dunce," the master scolded him. "Why didn't you give the rest of the water to the plants? What right have you to waste even a drop of water in this temple?" The young student attained Zen in that instant. He changed his name to Tekisui, which means a drop of water. Tosui was the Zen master who left the formalism of temples to live under a bridge with beggars. When he was getting very old, a friend helped him to earn his living without begging. He showed Tosui how to collect rice and manufacture vinegar from it, and Tosui did this until he passed away. While Tosui was making vinegar, one of the beggars gave him a picture of the Buddha. Tosui hung it on the wall of his hut and put a sign beside it. The sign read, "Mr. Amida Buddha, this little room is quite narrow. I can let you remain as a transient, but don't think I'm asking you to help me to be reborn in your paradise." Shoichi was a one-eyed teacher of Zen, sparkling with enlightenment. He taught his disciples in Tofuku Temple. Day and night, the whole temple stood in silence. There was no sound at all. Even the reciting of sutras was abolished by the teacher. His pupils had nothing to do but meditate. When the master passed away, an old neighbor heard the ringing of bells and the recitation of sutras. Then she knew Shoichi had gone. Buddha said, I consider the positions of kings and rulers as that of dust motes. I observe treasures of gold and gems as so many bricks and pebbles. I look upon the finest silken robes as tattered rags. I see myriad worlds of the universe as small seeds of fruit, and the greatest lake in India as a drop of oil on my foot. I perceive the teachings of the world to be the illusion of magicians. I discern the highest conception of emancipation as a golden brocade in a dream, and view the holy path of the illuminated ones as flowers appearing in one's eyes. I see meditation as a pillar of a mountain, nirvana as a nightmare of daytime. I look upon the judgment of right and wrong as the serpentine dance of a dragon, and the rise and fall of beliefs as but traces left by the four seasons. Nan-in, a Japanese master during the Meiji era, received the university professor who came to inquire about Zen. Nan-in served tea. He poured his visitor's cup full, then kept on pouring. The professor watched the overflow until he no longer could restrain himself. It is over full, no more will go in. Like this cup, Nan-in said, you are full of your own opinions and speculations. How can I show you Zen unless you first empty your cup? Gudo was the emperor's teacher of his time. Nevertheless, he used to travel alone as a wandering mendicant. Once when he was on his way to Edo, the cultural and political center of the shogunate, he approached a little village named Takenaka. It was evening and a heavy rain was falling. Gudo was thoroughly wet. His straw sandals were in pieces. At a farmhouse near the village, he noticed 4 or 5 pairs of sandals in the window and decided to buy some dry ones. The woman who offered him the sandals, seeing how wet he was, invited him to remain for the night in her home. Gudo accepted, thanking her. He entered and recited a sutra before the family shrine. He then was introduced to the woman's mother and to her children. Observing that the entire family was depressed, Gudo asked, what was wrong? My husband is a gambler and a drunkard, the housewife told him. When he happens to win, he drinks and becomes abusive. When he loses, he borrows money from others. Sometimes when he becomes thoroughly drunk, he does not come home at all. What can I do? I will help him, said Gudo. Here is some money. Get me a gallon of fine wine and something good to eat. Then you may retire. I will meditate before the shrine. When the man of the house returned about midnight, quite drunk, he bellowed, Hey wife, I'm home. Have you something for me to eat? I have something for you, said Gudo. I happened to be caught in the rain, and your wife kindly asked me to remain here for the night. In return, I have bought some wine and fish, so you might as well have them. The man was delighted. He drank the wine at once and laid himself down on the floor. Gudo sat in meditation beside him. In the morning, when the husband awoke, he had forgotten about the previous night. Who are you? Where do you come from? He asked Gudo, who still was meditating. I am Gudo of Kyoto, and I am going on to Edo, replied the Zen master. The man was utterly ashamed. He apologized profusely to the teacher of his emperor. Gudo smiled. Everything in this life is impermanent, he explained. Life is very brief. If you keep on gambling and drinking, you will have no time left to accomplish anything else, and you'll cause your family to suffer too. The perception of the husband awoke as if from a dream. You are right, he declared. How can I ever repay you for this wonderful teaching? Let me see you off and carry your things a little way. If you wish, assented Gudo. The two started out. After they had gone 3 miles, Gudo told him to return. Just another 5 miles, he begged Gudo. They continue on. You may return now, suggested Gudo. Another 10 miles, the man replied. Return now, said Gudo, when the 10 miles had been passed. I'm going to follow you all the rest of my life, declared the man. Modern Zen teachers in Japan spring from the lineage of a famous master who was the successor of Gudo. His name was Munan, the man who never turned back. master Hakuin was praised by his neighbors as one living a pure life. A beautiful Japanese girl whose parents owned a food store lived near him. Suddenly, without any warning, the parents discovered she was with child. This made her parents angry. She would not confess who the man was, but after much harassment, at last named Hakuin. In great anger, the parents went to the master. "Is that so?" was all he would say. After the child was born, it was brought to Hakuin. By this time, he had lost his reputation, which did not trouble him. But he took very good care of the child. He obtained milk from his neighbors and everything else the little one needed. A year later, the girl mother could stand it no longer. She told her parents the truth, that the real father of the child was a young man who worked in the fish market. The mother and father of the girl at once went to Hakuin to ask his forgiveness, to apologize at length, and to get the child back again. Hakuin was willing. In yielding the child, all he said was, "Is that so?" The Master Bankei's talks were attended not only by Zen students, but by persons of all ranks and sects. He never quoted sutras, nor indulged in scholastic dissertations. Instead, his words were spoken directly from his heart to the hearts of his listeners. His large audiences angered a priest of the Nichiren sect, because the adherents had left to hear about Zen. The self-centered Nichiren priest came to the temple, determined to debate with Bankei. "Hey Zen teacher," he called out, "wait a minute. Whoever respects you will obey what you say. But a man like myself does not respect you. Can you make me obey you?" "Come up beside me and I will show you," said Bankei. Proudly, the priest pushed his way through the crowd to the teacher. Bankei smiled. "Come over to my left side." The priest obeyed. "No," said Bankei, "we may talk better if you were on the right side. Step over here." The priest proudly stepped over to the right. "You see," observed Bankei, "you are obeying me, and I think you are a very gentle person. Now sit down and listen." 20 monks and one nun whose name Ishun were practicing meditation in certain Zen master. Ishun was very pretty, even though her head was shaved and her dress plain. Several monks secretly fell in love with her. One of them wrote her a love letter, insisting upon a private meeting. Ishun did not reply. The following day, the master gave a lecture to the group, and when it was over, Ishun arose. Addressing the one who had written her, she said, "If you really love me so much, come and embrace me now." There was an old woman in China who had supported a monk for over 20 years. She had built a little hut for him and fed him while he was meditating. Finally, she wondered just what progress he had made in all this time. To find out, she obtained the help of a girl rich in desire. "Go and embrace him," she told her, and then asked him suddenly, "What now?" The girl called upon the monk, and without much ado caressed him, asking him what he was going to do about it. "An old tree grows on a cold rock in winter," replied the monk somewhat poetically. "Nowhere is there any warmth." The girl returned and related what he had said. "To think I fed that fellow for 20 years, exclaimed the old woman in anger. "He showed no consideration for your need, no disposition to explain your condition. He need not have responded to passion, but at least he should have evidenced some compassion." She at once went to the hut of the monk and burned it down. In the early days of the Meiji era, there lived a well-known wrestler called Onami, Great Waves. Onami was immensely strong and knew the art of wrestling. In his private bouts, he defeated even his teacher, but in public he was so bashful that his own pupils threw him. Onami felt he should go to a Zen master for help. Hakuju, a wandering teacher, was stopping in a little temple nearby, so Onami went to see him and told him of his great trouble. "Great Waves is your name," the teacher advised. "So stay in this temple tonight. Imagine that you are those billows. You are no longer a wrestler who is afraid. You are those huge waves sweeping everything before them, swallowing all in their path. Do this, and you will be the greatest wrestler in the land." The teacher retired. Onami sat in meditation, trying to imagine himself as waves. He thought of many different things. Then gradually he turned more and more to the feeling of the waves. As the night advanced, the waves became larger and larger. They swept away the flowers in their vases. Even the Buddha in the shrine was inundated. Before dawn, the temple was nothing but the ebb and flow of an immense sea. In the morning, the teacher found Onami meditating, a faint smile on his face. He patted the wrestler's shoulder. "Now nothing can disturb you," he said. You are those waves. You will sweep everything before you. The same day, Onami entered the wrestling contests and won. After that, no one in Japan was able to defeat him. Ryokan, the Zen master, lived the simplest kind of life in a little hut at the foot of the mountain. One evening, a thief visited the hut, only to discover there was nothing in it to steal. Ryokan returned and caught him. You may have come a long way to visit me, he told the prowler, and you should not return empty-handed. Please take my clothes as a gift. The thief was bewildered. He took the clothes and slunk away. Ryokan sat naked watching the moon. Poor fellow, he mused. I wish I could give him this beautiful moon. The Zen master Hoshin lived in China many years. Then he returned to the northeastern part of Japan, where he taught his disciples. When he was getting very old, he told them a story he had heard in China. This is the story. One year, on the 25th of December, Tokufu, who was very old, said to his disciples, I'm not going to be alive next year, so you fellows should treat me well this year. The pupils thought he was joking, but since he was a great-hearted teacher, each of them in turn treated him to a feast on succeeding days of the departing year. On the eve of the new year, Tokufu concluded, You have been good to me. I shall leave you tomorrow afternoon when the snow has stopped. The disciples laughed, thinking he was aging and talking nonsense since the night was clear and without snow. But at midnight, snow began to fall, and the next day they did not find their teacher about. They went to the meditation hall. There he had passed on. Hoshin, who related this story, told his disciples, It is not necessary for a Zen master to predict his passing, but if he really wishes to do so, he can. Can you, someone asked? Yes, answered Hoshin. I will show you what I can do 7 days from now. None of the disciples believed him, and most of them had even forgotten the conversation when Hoshin called them together. 7 days ago, he remarked, I said I was going to leave you. It is customary to write a farewell poem, but I am neither a poet nor calligrapher. Let one of you inscribe my last words. His followers thought he was joking, but one of them started to write. Are you ready? Hoshin asked. Yes, sir, replied the writer. Then Hoshin dictated. I came from brilliancy and return to brilliancy. What is this? The poem was 1 line short of the customary 4, so the disciple said, Master, we are 1 line short. Hoshin, with the roar of a conquering lion, shouted, Ka! And was gone. The exquisite Shunke, whose other name was Suzu, was compelled to marry against her wishes when she was quite young. Later, after this marriage had ended, she attended a university where she studied philosophy. To see Shunke was to fall in love with her. Moreover, wherever she went, she herself fell in love with others. Love was with her at the university, and afterwards, when philosophy did not satisfy her and she visited a temple to learn about Zen, the Zen students fell in love with her. Shunke's whole life was saturated with love. At last in Kyoto, she became a real student of Zen. Her brothers in the sub-temple of Kenin praised her sincerity. One of them proved to be a congenial spirit and assisted her in the mastery of Zen. The abbot of Kenin, Mokurai, Silent Thunder, was severe. He kept the precepts himself and expected his priests to do so. In modern Japan, whatever zeal these priests have lost for Buddhism, they seem to have gained for taking wives. Mokurai used to take a broom and chase the women away when he found them in any of his temples, but the more wives he swept out, the more seemed to come back. In this particular temple, the wife of the head priest became jealous of Shunke's earnestness and beauty. Hearing the students praise her serious Zen made his wife squirm and itch. Finally, she spread a rumor about Shunke and the young man who was her friend. As a consequence, he was expelled, and Shunke was removed from the temple. I may have made the mistake of love, thought Shunke, but the priest's wife shall not remain in the temple either if my friend is to be treated so unjustly. Shunke the same night with a can of kerosene set fire to the 500-year-old temple and burned it to the ground. In the morning, she found herself in the hands of the police. A young lawyer became interested in her and endeavored to make her sentence lighter. Do not help me, she told him. I might decide to do something else which would only imprison me again. At last, a sentence of 7 years was completed, and Shunke was released from the prison, where the 60-year-old warden also had become enamored of her. But now everyone looked upon her as a jailbird. No one would associate with her. Even the Zen people who were supposed to believe in enlightenment in this life and with this body shunned her. The Zen Shunke found was one thing, and the followers of Zen quite another. Her relatives would have nothing to do with her. She grew sick, poor, and weak. She met a Shinzu priest who taught her the name of the Buddha of love, and in this Shunke found some solace and peace of mind. She passed away when she was still exquisitely beautiful and hardly 30 years old. She wrote her own story in a futile endeavor to support herself, and some of it she told to a born writer, so it reached the Japanese people. Those who rejected Shunke, those who slandered and hated her, now read of her life with tears of remorse. In Tokyo in the Meiji era, there lived two prominent teachers of opposite characteristics. One, Unsho, an instructor in Shingon, kept Buddha's precepts scrupulously. He never drank intoxicants, nor did he eat after 11 o'clock in the morning. The other teacher, Tanzan, a professor of philosophy at the Imperial University, never observed the precepts. When he felt like eating, he ate, and when he felt like sleeping in the daytime, he slept. One day Unsho visited Tanzan, who was drinking wine at the time, not even a drop of which is supposed to touch the tongue of a Buddhist. "Hello, brother," Tanzan greeted him. "Won't you have a drink?" "I never drink," exclaimed Unsho solemnly. "For one who does not drink is not even human," said Tanzan. "Do you mean to call me inhuman just because I do not indulge in intoxicating liquids?" exclaimed Unsho in anger. "Then if I am not human, what am I?" "A Buddha," answered Tanzan. Shoun became a teacher of Soto Zen. When he was still a student, his father passed away, leaving him to care for his old mother. Whenever Shoun went to a meditation hall, he always took his mother with him. Since she accompanied him when he visited monasteries, he could not live with the monks. So he would build a little house and care for her there. He would copy sutras, Buddhist verses, and in this manner receive a few coins for food. When Shoun brought fish for his mother, people would scoff at him, for a monk is not supposed to eat fish. But Shoun did not mind. His mother, however, was hurt to see others laugh at her son. Finally she told Shoun, "I think I will become a nun. I can be a vegetarian too." She did, and they studied together. Shoun was fond of music and was a master of the harp, which his mother also played. On full moon nights they used to play together. One night a young lady passed by their house and heard music. Deeply touched, she invited Shoun to visit her the next evening and play. He accepted the invitation. A few days later he met the young lady on the street and thanked her for her hospitality. Others laughed at him. He had visited the house of a woman of the streets. One day Shoun left for a distant temple to deliver a lecture. A few months afterwards he returned home to find his mother dead. Friends had not known where to reach him, so the funeral was then in progress. Shoun walked up and hit the coffin with his staff. "Mother, your son has returned," he said. "I'm glad to see you've returned, son," he answered for his mother. "Yes, I'm glad too," Shoun responded. Then he announced to the people about him, "The funeral ceremony is over. You may bury the body." When Shoun was old, he knew his end was approaching. He asked his disciples to gather around him in the morning, telling them he was going to pass on at noon. Burning incense before the picture of his mother and his old teacher, he wrote a poem. "For 56 years, I lived as best I could, making my way in this world. Now the rain has ended. The clouds are clearing. The blue sky has a full moon." His disciples gathered about him, reciting a sutra, and Shoun passed on during the invocation. A university student, while visiting Gasan, asked him, "Have you ever read the Christian Bible?" "No, read it to me," said Gasan. The student opened the Bible and read from St. Matthew. "And why take ye thought for raiment? Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They toil not, neither do they spin. And yet I say unto you that even Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. Take therefore no thought for the morrow, for the morrow shall take thought for the things of itself." Gasan said, "Whoever uttered those words I consider an enlightened man." The student continued reading. "Ask, and it shall be given you. Seek, and ye shall find. Knock, and it shall be opened unto you. For everyone that asketh receiveth, and he that seeketh findeth. And to him that knocketh it shall be opened." Gasan remarked, "That is excellent. Whoever said that is not far from Buddhahood." Buddha told a parable in a sutra. A man traveling across a field encountered a tiger. He fled, the tiger after him. Coming to a precipice, he caught hold of the root of a wild vine and swung himself down over the edge. The tiger sniffed at him from above. Trembling, the man looked down to where, far below, another tiger was waiting to eat him. Only the vine sustained him. Two mice, one white and one black, little by little started to gnaw away the vine. The man saw a luscious strawberry near him. Grasping the vine with one hand, he plucked the strawberry with the other. How sweet it tasted. When one goes to Obaku Temple in Kyoto, he sees carved over the gate the words, "The First Principle." The letters are unusually large, and those who appreciate calligraphy always admire them as being a masterpiece. They were drawn by Kosen 200 years ago. When the master drew them, he did so on paper from which workmen made the larger carving in wood. As Kosen sketched the letters, a bold pupil was with him, who had made several gallons of ink for the calligraphy, and who never failed to criticize his master's work. "That is not good," he told Kosen after the first effort. "How was that one?" "Poor, worse than before," pronounced the pupil. Kosen patiently wrote one sheet after another until 84 first principles had accumulated, still without the approval of the pupil. Then when the young man stepped outside for a few moments, Kosen thought, now is my chance to escape his keen eye, and he wrote hurriedly with a mind free from distraction. "The First Principle." "A masterpiece," pronounced the pupil. Jiun, a Shingon master, was a well-known Sanskrit scholar of the Tokugawa era. When he was young, he used to deliver lectures to his brother's students. His mother heard about this and wrote him a letter. "Son, I do not think you became a devotee of the Buddha because you desired to turn into a walking dictionary for others. There is no end to information and commentation, glory and honor. I wish you would stop this lecture business. Shut yourself up in a little temple in a remote part of the mountain. Devote your time to meditation, and in this way, attain true realization." The master of Kenyin Temple was Mokurai, Silent Thunder. He had a little protege named Toyo, who was only 12 years old. Toyo saw the older disciples visit the master's room each morning and evening to receive instructions in sanzen, or personal guidance, in which they were given koans to stop mind wandering. Toyo wished to do a sanzen also. "Wait a while," said Mokurai. "You're too young." But the child insisted, so the teacher finally consented. In the evening, little Toyo went at the proper time to the threshold of Mokurai's sanzen room. He struck the gong to announce his presence, bowed respectfully 3 times outside the door, and went to sit before the master in respectful silence. "You can hear the sound of 2 hands when they clap together," said Mokurai. "Now show me the sound of 1 hand." Toyo bowed and went to his room to consider this problem. From his window he could hear the music of the geishas. "Ah, I have it," he proclaimed. The next evening, when his teacher asked him to illustrate the sound of 1 hand, Toyo began to play the music of the geishas. No, said Mokurai, "that will never do. That is not the sound of 1 hand. You've not got it at all." Thinking that such music might interrupt, Toyo moved his abode to a quiet place. He meditated again. What can the sound of 1 hand be? He happened to hear some water dripping. "I have it," imagined Toyo. When he next appeared before his teacher, Toyo imitated dripping water. "What is that?" asked Mokurai. "That is the sound of dripping water, but not the sound of 1 hand. Try again." In vain, Toyo meditated to hear the sound of 1 hand. He heard the sighing of the wind, but the sound was rejected. He heard the cry of an owl. This also was refused. The sound of 1 hand was not the locusts. For more than 10 times, Toyo visited Mokurai with different sounds. All were wrong. For almost a year, he pondered what the sound of 1 hand might be. At last, little Toyo entered true meditation and transcended all sounds. "I could collect no more," he explained later, "so I reached the soundless sound." Toyo had realized the sound of 1 hand. Soyen Shaku, the first Zen teacher to come to America, said, "My heart burns like fire, but my eyes are as cold as dead ashes." He made the following rules, which he practiced every day of his life. In the morning before dressing, light incense and meditate. Retire at a regular hour. Partake of food at regular intervals. Eat with moderation and never to the point of satisfaction. Receive a guest with the same attitude you have when alone. the same attitude you have in receiving guests. Watch what you say, and whatever you say, practice it. When an opportunity comes, do not let it pass by, yet always think twice before acting. Do not regret the past, look to the future. Have the fearless attitude of a hero and the loving heart of a child. Upon retiring, sleep as if you had entered your last sleep. Upon awakening, leave your bed behind you instantly, as if you had cast away a pair of old shoes. When Aishun, the Zen nun, was past 60 and about to leave this world, she asked some monks to pile up wood in the yard. Seating herself firmly in the center of the funeral pyre, she had it set fire around the edges. "Oh, nun," shouted one monk, "is it hot in there?" "Such a matter would concern only a stupid person like yourself," answered Aishun. Flames arose, and she passed away. A farmer requested a Tendai priest to recite sutras for his wife who had died. After the recitation was over, the farmer asked, "Do you think my wife will gain merit from this?" "Not only your wife, but all sentient beings will benefit from the recitation of sutras," answered the priest. "If you say all sentient beings will benefit," said the farmer, "my wife may be very weak and others will take advantage of her, getting the benefit she should have. So please, recite sutras just for her." The priest explained that it was the desire of a Buddhist to offer blessings and wish merit for every living being. "That is a fine teaching," concluded the farmer, "but please make one exception. I have a neighbor who is rough and mean to me. Just exclude him from all those sentient beings." Suiwo, the disciple of Hakuin, was a good teacher. During one summer seclusion period, a pupil came to him from a southern island of Japan. Suiwo gave him a problem. Hear the sound of one hand. The pupil remained 3 years but could not pass this test. One night he came in tears to Suiwo. "I must return south in shame and embarrassment," he said, "for I cannot solve my problem." "Wait 1 week more and meditate constantly," advised Suiwo. Still no enlightenment came to the pupil. "Try for another week," said Suiwo. The pupil obeyed, but in vain. Still another week. Yet this was of no avail. In despair, the student begged to be released, but Suiwo requested another meditation of 5 days. They were without result. Then he said, "Meditate for 3 days longer. Then if you fail to attain enlightenment, you had better kill yourself." On the second day, the pupil was enlightened. Provided he makes and wins an argument about Buddhism with those who live there, any wandering monk can remain in his own temple. If he is defeated, he has to move on. In a temple in the northern part of Japan, 2 brother monks were dwelling together. The elder one was learned, but the younger one was stupid and had but one eye. A wandering monk came and asked for lodging, properly challenging them to a debate about the sublime teaching. The elder brother, tired that day from much studying, told the younger one to take his place. "Go and request the dialogue in silence," he cautioned. So the young monk and the stranger went to the shrine and sat down. Shortly afterwards, the traveler rose and went into the elder brother and said, "Your young brother is a wonderful fellow. He defeated me." "Relate the dialogue to me," said the elder one. "Well," explained the traveler, "first I held up 1 finger, representing Buddha, the enlightened one. So he held up 2 fingers, signifying Buddha and his teaching. I held up 3 fingers, representing Buddha, his teaching, and his followers living the harmonious life. Then he shook his clenched fist in my face, indicating that all 3 come from one realization. Thus he won, and so I have no right to remain here." With this, the traveler left. "Where's that fellow?" asked the younger one, running into his elder brother. "I understand you won the debate." "Won nothing. I'm going to beat him up." "Tell me the subject of the debate," asked the elder one. "Why, the minute he saw me, he held up 1 finger, insulting me by insinuating that I have only 1 eye. Since he was a stranger, I thought I would be polite to him, so I held up 2 fingers, congratulating him that he has 2 eyes. Then the impolite wretch held up 3 fingers, suggesting that between us we only have 3 eyes. So I got mad and started to punch him, but he ran out and that ended it." After Bankei had passed away, a blind man who lived near the master's temple told a friend, "Since I'm blind, I cannot watch a person's face, so I must judge his character by the sound of his voice. Ordinarily, when I hear someone congratulate another upon his happiness or success, I also hear a secret tone of envy. When condolence is expressed for the misfortune of another, I hear pleasure and satisfaction. as if the one condoling was really glad there was something left to gain in his own world. In all my experience, however, Bankei's voice was always sincere. Whenever he expressed happiness, I heard nothing but happiness, and whenever he expressed sorrow, sorrow was all I heard. Keichu, the great Zen teacher of the Meiji era, was the head of the Tofuku, a cathedral in Kyoto. One day the governor of Kyoto called upon him for the first time. His attendant presented the card of the governor, which read, Kitagaki, governor of Kyoto. I have no business with such a fellow, said Keichu to his attendant. Tell him to get out of here. The attendant carried the card back with apologies. That was my error, said the governor, and with a pencil he scratched out the words, Governor of Kyoto. Ask your teacher again. Oh, is that Kitagaki? Exclaimed the teacher when he saw the card. I want to see that fellow. When Banzan was walking through a market, he overheard a conversation between a butcher and his customer. Give me the best piece of meat you have, said the customer. Everything in my shop is the best, replied the butcher. You cannot find here any piece of meat that is not the best. At these words, Banzan became enlightened. Mokusen Hiki was living in a temple in the province of Tamba. One of his adherents complained of the stinginess of his wife. Mokusen visited the adherent's wife and showed her his clenched fist before her face. What do you mean by that? Asked the surprised woman. Suppose my fist were always like that. What would you call it? He asked. Deformed, replied the woman. Then he opened his hand flat in her face and asked, Suppose it were always like that. What then? Another kind of deformity, said the wife. If you understand that much, finished Mokusen, you are a good wife. Then he left. After his visit, this wife helped her husband to distribute, as well as to say. Mokugen was never known to smile until his last day on earth. When his time came to pass away, he said to his faithful ones, You have studied under me for more than 10 years. Show me your real interpretation of Zen. Whoever expresses this most clearly shall be my successor and receive my robe and bowl. Everyone watched Mokugen's severe face, but no one answered. Encho, a disciple who had been with his teacher for a long time, moved near the bedside. He pushed forward the medicine cup a few inches. This was his answer to the command. The teacher's face became even more severe. Is that all you understand? He asked. Encho reached out and moved the cup back again. A beautiful smile broke over the features of Mokugen. You rascal, he told Encho. You have worked with me 10 years and have not yet seen my whole body. Take the robe and bowl. They belong to you. Zen students are with their masters at least 10 years before they presume to teach others. Nan-in was visited by Tenno, who, having passed his apprenticeship, had become a teacher. The day happened to be rainy, so Tenno wore wooden clogs and carried an umbrella. After greeting him, Nan-in remarked, I suppose you left your wooden clogs in the vestibule. I want to know if your umbrella is on the right or left side of the clogs. Tenno, confused, had no instant answer. He realized that he was unable to carry his Zen every minute. He became Nan-in's pupil, and he studied 6 more years to accomplish his every minute Zen. Subhuti was Buddha's disciple. He was able to understand the potency of emptiness, the viewpoint that nothing exists except in its relationship of subjectivity and objectivity. One day, Subhuti, in a mood of sublime emptiness, was sitting under a tree. Flowers began to fall about him. We are praising you for your discourse on emptiness, the gods whispered to him. But I have not spoken of emptiness, said Subhuti. You have not spoken of emptiness. We have not heard emptiness, responded the gods. This is the true emptiness. And blossoms showered upon Subhuti as rain. Gisho was ordained as a nun when she was 10 years old. She received training just as the little boys did. When she reached the age of 16, she traveled from one Zen master to another, studying with them all. She remained 3 years with Unzan, 6 years with Guke, but was unable to obtain a clear vision. At last she went to the master Inzan. Inzan showed her no distinction at all on account of her sex. He scolded her like a thunderstorm. He cuffed her to awaken her inner nature. Gisho remained with Inzan 13 years, and then she found that which she was seeking. In her honor, Inzan wrote a poem. This nun studied 13 years under my guidance. In the evening, she considered the deepest koans. In the morning, she was wrapped in other koans. The Chinese nun Tetsuma surpassed all before her, and since Mujaku, none has been so genuine as this Gisho. Yet there are many more gates for her to pass through. She should receive still more blows from my iron fist. After Gisho was enlightened, she went to the province of Banshu, started her own Zen temple, and taught 200 other nuns, until she passed away 1 year in the month of August. The master Soyen Shaku passed from this world when he was 61 years of age. Fulfilling his life's work, he left a great teaching, far richer than that of most Zen masters. His pupils used to sleep in the daytime during midsummer, and while he overlooked this, he himself never wasted a minute. When he was but 12 years old, he was already studying Kendai philosophical speculation. One summer day, the air had been so sultry that little Soyen stretched his legs and went to sleep while his teacher was away. 3 hours passed when, suddenly waking, he heard his master enter, but it was too late. There he lay, sprawled across the doorway. "I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon," his teacher whispered, stepping carefully over Soyen's body, as if it were that of some distinguished guest. After this, Soyen never slept again in the afternoon. Our schoolmaster used to take a nap every afternoon, related a disciple of Soyen Shaku. We children asked him why he did it, and he told us, "I go to dreamland to meet the old sages just as Confucius did." When Confucius slept, he would dream of ancient sages and later tell his followers about them. It was extremely hot one day, so some of us took a nap. Our schoolmaster scolded us. "We went to dreamland to meet the ancient sages, the same as Confucius did," we explained. "What was the message from those sages?" our schoolmaster demanded. One of us replied, "We went to dreamland and met the sages and asked them if our schoolmaster came there every afternoon, but they said they had never seen any such fellow." Joshu began the study of Zen when he was 60 years old and continued until he was 80 when he realized Zen. He taught from the age of 80 until he was 120. A student once asked him, "If I haven't anything